And we begin this afternoon with new information about a cold case murder in Kane County back in 1979. Police say they know who killed Kathy Holly.
A detective drove a dead girl's clothing to Florida in a box, and 8 months later, a lab handed him a number that rewrote everything, 9.4 trillion to 1. After 45 years, the DNA on Kathy Holly's white ski jacket finally had a name attached to it. But what nobody knew was that the man it belonged to had already been rotting in the ground for 4 decades, and he had taken the truth with him when he died. On the night of March 29, 1979, a 19-year-old girl left her apartment on Volks Court in North Aurora, Illinois, to pick up her sister from work. Her car turned up in the lot hours later, engine off, door closed, blood on the floor behind the driver's seat. No struggle. No witness. No answers. For 45 years, nobody knew what happened to Kathy Holly. But to understand how the truth finally surfaced, we have to go back to that night. Kathy Holly was 19 years old. She lived on Volks Court in North Aurora and worked at the Northgate Shopping Center on North Lake Street in Aurora, the same shopping center where her sister worked that very night. She was the picture of youth in the late 1970s, bright eyes behind glasses, overalls, feathered hair. She had a steady boyfriend. Everyone who knew her described her as incredibly sweet. The kind of girl her family said that this just did not happen to. It was cold and raining that night. She threw on her white ski jacket, grabbed her keys, and walked out to the parking lot. The drive to Northgate was less than 2 miles. She had made it dozens of times before. She never arrived. Her sister Michelle later told the Chicago Tribune, "She never got to the supermarket, and she has never come home. I know Kathy, and this is not like Kathy." North Aurora Police Lieutenant Edward Kelly described her to reporters as a very liked girl who had a steady boyfriend, and no one can understand how this could happen to her. When her car turned up, engine off, door closed, a large pool of blood soaked into the floor behind the driver's seat, investigators knew immediately. This was not a missing persons case. This was a homicide. Her parents went on television. They pleaded for any information. They prayed she was still alive somewhere out there. 3 weeks of complete silence followed. Then on April 24, 1979, a boy fishing along the Fox River, just south of the I-88 bridge in North Aurora, spotted something in the water. It was Kathy. She had been in that river for nearly a month. She was still wearing the same jacket she had thrown on before walking out her front door. Kane County investigators opened the case and worked every lead they had. They cast the widest net they could. And then the trail went cold. In 1979, there was no DNA technology. No digital databases. No cell phones. No surveillance cameras watching parking lots at night. Detectives in Kane County worked this case the only way they could, by typewriter, by telephone, by knocking on doors and following every thread they could find. Nothing held. In the early 2000s, when DNA testing began to emerge as an investigative tool, North Aurora detectives went back and collected DNA evidence from people connected to Kathy's life. Every single sample came back negative. For decades past, Kathy's case sat in a box on a shelf. Her family carried unanswered questions that never got quieter with time. And the man responsible sat undiscovered, not because he had been clever enough to hide, but because he was already gone, and nobody knew yet to look at him. That changed in 2019. And it did not start in North Aurora. It started 20 miles away in a town called Lindahl, with a 16-year-old girl who had been murdered 43 years earlier and whose case cracked open like a door, pulling everything else down with it. Her name was Pamela Maurer. She was 16 years old, a junior at Downers Grove South High School, from Woodridge, Illinois. On the night of January 12, 1976, Pamela visited a friend's house in Lindahl. At around 9:45 in the evening, she stepped outside alone to walk to a nearby McDonald's to buy a Coke. It was a short walk. A nothing errand. She never came back. The following morning, a road crew found her body near the intersection of College Road and Maple Avenue in Lindahl. She had been raped and strangled, most likely with a rubber hose found near her body. Her purse with her identification was found by a passerby on the side of the road. Investigators collected and preserved DNA from the crime scene. even before the technology existed to use it. In 2001, a full DNA profile of the killer was developed. No matches came back from any database. The case went cold again. Then in 2019, investigators used the exact same method that had cracked the Golden State Killer case in California, uploading the suspect's DNA to a public genealogy website. It matched with relatives of a man who had been in the ground since 1981. On January 13, 2020, DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin held a press conference in Wheaton, Illinois. It was the first time in the entire history of Illinois that investigative genealogy had ever been used to solve a murder. Lisle Detective Chris Loudon stepped to the microphone and said what Pamela Maurer's family had been waiting 44 years to hear. We finally put a name and a face to this monster. That name was Bruce Lindahl. And North Aurora Detective Ryan Peete was watching every second of it. Bruce Everett Lindahl was born on January 29, 1953, in St. Charles, Illinois. He attended Downers Grove North High School, the same school that Deborah McCall would attend years later. He graduated in the early 1970s with a degree in electromechanics, worked as an electrician, and studied additionally at the Mid-Valley Vocational Center in Caneville. He enjoyed parachuting and racquetball. Friends described him positively. He moved frequently between Chicago's western suburbs, Lisle, Woodridge, Downers Grove, and eventually Aurora. He was also convicted of sexually assaulting 3 girls under the age of 14. That fact barely registered in the news at the time. What nobody knew, until DNA began connecting the dots decades later, was the full scope of what Bruce Lindahl had been doing to women and girls across those suburbs for nearly an entire decade. May 13, 1974. Glen Ellen, Illinois. Karen Schuckhart, 17, disappears from a drug store in Glen Ellen. 5 days later her body is found bound, wrapped in a blanket, floating in the Fox River. Lindahl suspected. Case never officially solved. October 10, 1975. Lisle, Illinois. A former girlfriend of Lindahl is kidnapped and raped inside his Lisle apartment. She later tells investigators he marched her on a long walk into the woods, made death threats, and showed her a culvert large enough to stand inside, the implication unmistakable. The case fails to prosecute. The system looks away. January 12 through 13, 1976. Lisle, Illinois. Pamela Maurer, 16, Woodridge. Raped and strangled near College Road and Maple Avenue. DNA confirms Lindahl 44 years later. October 3, 1976. New Lenox, Illinois. Jennifer Springman, 17, of Downers Grove. Her body found beneath Highway 80 near State Highway 30, northeast of New Lenox, on the bank of Hickory Creek. A witness claims to have seen her being strangled on the side of the road. Lindahl suspected. June 1, 1977. Lisle, Illinois. Elizabeth Drews, 17, of Downers Grove. Last seen June 1, 1977. Her body is found in a wooded area at Benedictine University in Lisle in October 1977. Lindahl is an official suspect named by DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin on an unspecified date in Aurora, Illinois. Lindahl is stopped by police while driving. An unconscious woman with a severe head wound is in his car. He claims he is taking her to the hospital, but he is heading in the wrong direction. She is found to have been sexually assaulted. She cannot remember what happened after she drank something Lindahl gave her at a party. No charges filed. Lindahl, March 6, 1979. Aurora, Illinois. Annette Lazar, 20, is walking to a friend's house in Aurora when Lindahl pulls over and offers to sell her marijuana. She follows him into a basement where he shows her his pet falcon while Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues plays from the record player. Then he puts a gun to her head and sexually assaults her. He tells her no one will believe her. She reports it to police. Because she had left him her phone number, and because the house where the assault happened belonged to Aurora Police Officer Dave Torres, a personal friend of Lindahl, her testimony is discounted. The Kane County State's Attorney's Office declines to bring charges. March 29, 1979. North Aurora, Illinois. Kathy Halley, 19. Abducted from the Volks Court parking lot. strangled. Body dumped in the Fox River half a mile away. August 1, 1979. Aurora, Illinois. Patricia Early, 17. Reported missing from Aurora. Her remains are found on November 8, 1980 in Naperville Township. Lindahl suspected. Case never officially closed. November 5, 1979. Downers Grove, Illinois. Deborah McCall, 16, a student at Downers Grove North High School, is last seen leaving the school grounds. She never returns home. She has never been found. A photograph believed to be of her is later discovered inside Lindahl's apartment after his death. June 23, 1980. Aurora, Illinois. Deborah Colliender, 25. She is locking her bicycle outside Northgate Shopping Center in Aurora when Lindahl approaches and asks for help starting his car. The moment she sits inside, he pulls a knife to her throat and drives off. He takes her to his house on Sulphusbug Avenue, threatens her with a handgun, rapes her, and photographs her. She escapes when Lindahl falls asleep, running completely naked to the house of neighbor Karen Weeks-Cosman 5 doors down. Lindahl is arrested. Charged with aggravated kidnapping, rape, and deviant sexual assault. Released on bail. October 7, 1980. Aurora, Illinois. Deborah Colliender leaves work at Copley Hospital in Aurora and vanishes, 2 weeks before she is scheduled to testify against Lindahl at trial. A friend of Lindahl's later tells investigators that Lindahl offered him $2,000, a handgun, whiskey, and pills to make sure she never walked into that courtroom. The charges against Lindahl are dropped. No body. No witness. No case. December 15, 1980. Oswego, Illinois. Susan Japczynski, 21. Found stabbed to death in her apartment, under cinder blocks, in the bathtub. Lindahl suspected. 3 murders confirmed by DNA. 12 or more suspected. 9 rapes. Crimes stretching from 1974 to 1981 across DuPage, Kane, Kendall, and Will counties, and all the way into Indiana. And the entire time, Bruce Lindahl kept walking free. The question that still haunts investigators today: how did nobody notice? On April 4, 1981, Bruce Lindahl crossed paths with 18-year-old Charles Robert Chuck Huber Jr. in Naperville. They went bowling together. Afterwards, Lindahl invited Huber back to his girlfriend's place to drink. Once inside, Lindahl attacked. He stabbed Chuck Huber 28 times with a kitchen knife. But Huber fought back. During the struggle, the blade turned, and Lindahl drove it into his own thigh, severing his femoral artery. Both men bled out at the scene. Police arrived to find Lindahl's body lying on top of Chuck Huber's. He was 28 years old. Inside the apartment, officers found photographs. Photographs of women. Photographs of girls. One was believed to be Deborah McCall, the 16-year-old who had left Downers Grove North High School on November 5, 1979 and never come home. There were other photographs of other women whose names investigators still do not know to this day. The monster was gone. But the reckoning was still 38 years away. After the January 2020 announcement naming Lindahl in Pamela Maurer's murder, Detective Ryan Peet pulled Kathy Halley's case file immediately and reached out to Lisle investigators. Kathy's clothing was sent to the DuPage County Crime Lab. The result: 2 individuals' DNA were present on the fabric. But the sample was too degraded, too many years, too much river water, to produce a workable profile. Another dead end. Then in 2022, Peet received a critical lead. A box of Bruce Lindahl's personal belongings had been sitting untouched in an evidence room at the Naperville Police Department for decades. Inside that box was confirmation that Lindahl regularly visited the Northgate Shopping Center in Aurora, the exact place where Kathy worked and the same location where Deborah Colliender had been kidnapped 2 years after Kathy's murder. Lindahl had not crossed Kathy's path by accident. He had been circling her world. That same year, Detective Peet attended a forensic training seminar where specialists demonstrated the MVC, a wet vacuum DNA system that sprays liquid solution onto old or water-damaged fabric and vacuums off DNA buried beneath the surface. Technology designed specifically for evidence like Kathy's clothing. In May 2023, North Aurora PD was awarded a grant from the nonprofit organization Season of Justice to fund the advanced testing. In June 2023, Detective Pete personally drove Kathy Halley's clothing from North Aurora to DNA Labs International in Deerfield Beach, Florida. 8 months later, August 2024, the results came back. And the number on that report changed everything. Before we get to what happened at that press conference, if you have been watching this channel and have not yet subscribed, right now is the moment. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and tell us where in the world you are watching from. It keeps these stories alive and it means everything to this channel. Now, back to that number. 9.4 trillion to 1. On October 23, 2024, North Aurora Police held a press conference. 45 years after a 19-year-old girl stepped out of her apartment and vanished, her family finally had a name. Kane County State's Attorney Pamela Maurer addressed the room. His pattern of violence, combined with the DNA evidence we now have, leaves no doubt that he was responsible for Kathy's tragic death. While we cannot prosecute Lindahl, the family now knows the truth, and justice, though delayed, has finally been served for Kathy. Deputy Chief Joe Gorski read the Halley family statement on their behalf. While revisiting this case has been incredibly difficult for our family, we are deeply grateful to finally have closure after 45 long years. Thanks to advancements in DNA technology and groundbreaking investigative tools, we are hopeful that other families won't have to endure the same pain and uncertainty we faced for so many years. And Detective Ryan Pete, the man who drove that evidence box to Florida himself, who rebuilt this case year by year, lead by lead, finally got to say the words his mentors never could. All my mentors coming up the ranks worked on this case, and then I got to be the one to type, "Case closed." But not every family got that phone call. Deborah McCall, 16 years old. Last seen November 5, 1979, walking out of Downers Grove North High School. Her photograph was inside Lindahl's apartment when he died. She has never been found. Her family is still waiting. Deborah Colliender. She survived Lindahl's attack. She escaped naked from his house. She reported it. She prepared to testify. She disappeared on October 7, 1980, 2 weeks before trial. A man was offered $2,000 to silence her forever. Part of her body was found in a farm field in Oswego Township, Kendall County, in April 1982. No one was ever convicted for her murder. Patricia Early, 17 years old. Missing from Aurora since August 1, 1979. Remains found in Naperville Township on November 8, 1980. Lindahl suspected. Nobody has ever been charged. Karen Schuckhart, 17 years old. Disappeared from a drugstore in Glen Ellen on May 13, 1974. Found bound in a blanket, floating in the Fox River 5 days later. Lindahl suspected. Her killer has never been named in a courtroom. Elizabeth Drews, 17 years old. Last seen June 1, 1977 in Downers Grove. Body found at Benedictine University in Lisle in October 1977. Officially named as a suspected Lindahl victim by DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin. Still no conviction. Still no accountability. Detective Chris Loudon, the Lisle detective who spent years pulling this web of cases together, said it plainly, "I think there's probably people we don't even know about." 2 additional suspected victims he is not permitted to name publicly. After the details of Lindahl's death became public in 1981, one of his surviving victims contacted authorities and identified him as her attacker. How many more stayed silent? How many names exist in no file anywhere? And this, Bruce Lindahl was convicted of sexually assaulting 3 girls under the age of 14. That conviction should have kept him off the streets. It did not. Bruce Lindahl bled out on an apartment floor in Naperville on April 4, 1981. He was 28 years old. He never sat in a courtroom for a single one of his murders. He never heard a verdict read against him. He never looked a single family in the eye. Kathy Halley's family waited 45 years for a name. That name came from a jacket pulled out of a river, and a machine that did not exist when she was alive. Is that justice? Or is it just the closest we could get? Leave your answer in the comments below. This case deserves that conversation. If this case moved you, leave your thoughts below. We read every single one. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another breakdown. We will see you in the next one.